Okay, I just watched Bill Maher, and he just went over this whole rant about Western civilization and how modern day, because of the colleges and the liberal and the woke, Western civilization is considered oxymoronic because Western civilization brought us all types of things and just brought basically all of humanity out of the Stone Age when nothing could be further from the truth. There is a contrast between saying Western civilization because there was no Western civilization. Western civilization is maybe now, but there was Western civilization and it basically moved everybody else forward. I'm gonna give you a few stats because chronology, once you try to reconcile them, will remind you that Western civilization is the most recent iteration of civilization, not remotely the first. It wasn't a contemporary with the first, the second, the 10th, or the 50th generation of civilization. It is dead freaking last. It's fine. It's piggybacking off of everything else that happened before. That's what civilizations do. But it did not bring anything to the table. So that means any other group that came to power during this time would have the benefits of all the things that came before and may have made it to where we have a world without nuclear war, without a bunch of weapons, because we could have taken another path if another civilization had rose to prominence instead at this point. So you never know. It could be 100 times worse. We could be nearly completely eradicated if another group was in charge, or we could be 1,000 years ahead of where we are right now. Someone else could have spent more of our effort on being kinder to each other technological advancements, exploration, besides just war, driving all of our technology. So let me give you a little bit of a history lesson so you can disabuse yourself of this idea. So let's start with Africa, of how that's so far behind. But Mansa Musa is still the richest man to ever live. That's West Africa. That's Mali. That's Songhai. His predecessor, Abu Bakr, is believed to have traveled to America, or at least attempted an expedition. They're still looking for where his landing site may have been about 2 centuries prior to Columbus. So I know you're thinking everybody's sitting around a grass hut, don't know what they're doing, but Mali and Songhai are empires larger than Western Europe in West Africa. You did not come there to people who were just totally unaware of the world or whatever else. There was sailing, there was animal domestication, there were large empires by the time Europeans got there to show up to deal with slavery and things like that. Slavery came from 700 years of Moorish conquest. That's 700 years of Africans ruling the Iberian Peninsula in southern Europe. And the Iberian Peninsula being, of course, Portugal and Spain, and its influence reaching even beyond. So that all the contemporaries, even if you see something like Othello, that would have been Shakespeare's idea of black people when he saw them. Now, I know right now you think it's a lot of race swapping, or they're interjecting a lot of black people in the medieval times, and black people would have been in Africa in the huts. No, black people were sailing and doing everything that they needed to do prior to any experience or interactions with Western Europeans. Now we go back even further into Africa. The Egyptian Empire, what you think about, oh yeah, and the Cleopatra, the reason you think that is because you rely on accounts from the Romans, because the Romans conquered Western Europe. And so the Romans, because there's no writing systems, there's no nothing in Western Europe. There's nothing in Germany, there's nothing in France, there's nothing in England. So all the documentaries you watch, you will hear them refer to the Roman who wrote about it, because you have nothing in your Western civilization. There's no Colosseums, there's no pyramids, there's no nothing. I guess there's some cave drawings, as my son mentioned earlier, or Stonehenge. So there's no Western civilization. So the Egyptian Empire started in 3150 BC. The Romans are not their contemporaries. When the Romans got there, it was basically over. The Roman Empire started in the Roman Republic. This ain't even the empire yet. Roman Republic is 509 BC, almost 2,500 years later. So Africans are doing their thing down through Ethiopia, back and forth up and through Sudan and the Nile Valley and Nubia. All these black civilizations, 2,500 years before there was a Roman Republic. The Greeks are at 1600, about halfway through the Egyptian Empire. So that starts the Mediterranean groups. Still nothing to do with the West. The West, which is what you're talking about when you say Western civilization. The West is not involved. The West is considered one thing, the barbarians. That's how the Greeks refer to them. That's how the Romans refer to them. They're the barbarians. And then they go to conquer West. And all of these derivative Latin languages are from that conquest. You're not the Roman Empire. You were not the Roman Empire. You weren't even really legitimate Roman subjects because you were not integrated into the Roman Empire. After 4 centuries, let's see, Rome gets there in 43 AD. Now, do you know the difference between 3150 BC and Africa doing its thing for millennia? And after millennia, a couple of European ports began to thrive and begin their conquest on the other side of the sea, and then move that west centuries upon centuries later. And finally, in 43 AD, they get to England. That's your first interaction with any civilization. That's your first interaction with any civilization. You didn't make none of this up. These things go back thousands of years and have nothing to do with what are considered the Western powers at this point. Not Gaul, not any of the Germanic or Celtic tribes, and definitely nothing on the British Isles. It is so bad that they got there in 43 AD, left in 410. So they were there for 4 centuries plus. And even after they left and said, here's roads, here's civilization, here's writing, here's religion, you fall into the Dark Ages. Still nothing comes of that. Nothing. Tribal fiefdoms. Turn London into firewood. That's your labeling, the Dark Ages. Nothing's happening. Nothing. Just fiefdom and tribal wars after the Romans are there for 4 centuries plus. You brought nothing. You brought your tribal wars global. That's it. There's nothing that's invented or created there. You didn't make up music. Gunpowder doesn't come from there. The printing press, nothing. The Bible isn't from there. You're offended when you see somebody, Black Cleopatra. I'm offended that they have white Romans in movies. I'm offended when there's white Greeks in movies. Why is this person being played by an English person or a French actress or Germanic or Swedish or Scandinavian actress? There were no white people in antiquity. Chronologically speaking, 3150, 1650, 509 BC. Still no interactions with the West. There's just not. So the closest thing you have is 50 BC when the Romans conquer Gaul. They conquer it. Foot in your ass, and now all these countries speak Latin slang. That's what French is, Latin slang. That's what Spanish is, Latin slang. That's what Portuguese is, Latin slang. Because Latin's the language. And these derivatives are that. And when you speak a derivative of a language, I've been told, we're treated as slang. We're treated as a dialect. You're not an actual language. You're a dialect or slang at best. So I would like to disabuse you so that you don't go around repeating what this nutball said, that Western civilization brought the world. It did. I'll agree it's more than genocide and the Holocaust and slavery and whatever else. There's been innovations, as there would be. And all groups have contributed to those innovations. I know they only show white males doing all these things, but each one of these things built upon contributions by a lot of people. Nobody else could get the patents. Nobody else could take credit. Nobody could own anything. Nobody could spend their time on philosophy and science and had those opportunities if you're a slave in the field, if you're being pushed out on parched earth as a Native American. But you didn't invent civilization. No aspect of civilization has been created in the West. There's been new inventions, there's been new tools, but all of those are predicated on existing knowledge, on mathematics, on sciences, on sailing, on anything that already existed prior to you moving along. These are evolutionary things, not revolutionary things. So, no, there's no Western civilization. You have brought disproportionate amounts of bloodshed, harm, genocide to the world. And it's like, okay, and we took part in the cell phones and TV. Okay, yes, but that doesn't wash away all the bloodshed. Who's to say we wouldn't still have all the shit we have, if not more, if we didn't have a culture dominate that focused on war? That really focused on the technology on feeding everybody, that focused the technology on spreading the wealth around the world or ending poverty or whatever else. We would still be better off. I don't need it to end, but you're going to be criticized, just like we're criticizing Israel right now, to improve. I'm part of Western culture. I live in the Western world. There's shit we can do better. Don't tell me I can't criticize it. Don't tell me I can't say that like it's oxymoronic. I know better. I didn't grow up suckling the tit, believing, oh, nobody ever did anything and nobody knew anything until 1492. That's for you to believe. But I got the dates. I got the receipts. There's no Western civilization. We're starting it now. We're developing it now. One that can almost honestly be called something that's developed from the West. There's only considered to be one art form from America, and that's jazz. So we are creating Western civilization. Stop fetishizing and retrofitting yourself back on the people who conquered you. You got a problem with black people going back and retrofitting themselves and adding black people. Oh, there's a black Anne Boleyn. There's a black Cleopatra. Well, what's more ridiculous is a white Caesar, is a white Greek, is whites in Troy, or whites in any of these stories of antiquity, or whites in the Bible, or whites in the Middle East, or whites in Africa. Because the dates say nobody heard of your ass until everything was over. The Bible was done. All of history was done. All of civilization had come and went by the time you live another millennia under Moorish rule to finally find somebody else to go kill besides each other. And I guess that's civilization.